And starting with some breath work, so following my hands in and out, in, slowing it down and out, in and out, in and slowly out, up through one nostril, out through the other. This is our alternate nostril breath, in through that same nostril and out through the first nostril, in, deep breaths and out, in through that same nostril, out through the other, and time to stretch, starting with our cat-cows on all fours, arching our back up as high as we can, and then stretching the abs and the neck. Tuck the tailbone, stick the butt out. Tuck the tailbone, stick the butt out. Push through the shoulders into child's pose, alternating between child's pose and ab stretch, stretching the abs, looking up to the sky, tailbone down to your butt, feet flat, stretching the lower back. Back to the abs, back to child's pose, lower back flat. Torso rotations, reaching one hand as far through as you can, and then up to the sky. Careful not to pop that shoulder on the bottom arm. Breathe as you rotate and reach as far as you can in each direction. Swapping arms. Continue to breathe. Reaching as far as you can, careful not to pop the shoulder, keep the hips still. Breathe. And hip circle into ankle crush, and back to calf stretch. It's a new exercise for some of you. Ankle crush, high knee to calf stretch. Calf stretch, high knee to ankle crush. Getting as high as you can with that knee, keeping the hips still. Basically going from a calf stretch, hip circle, into hip flexor stretch of the back leg. Pushing that knee forward as far as you can on the hip flexor stretch. We'll get into the Achilles tendon as well. Big movements. And swapping legs. Same thing, calf stretch, high knee into ankle crush. Totally made this one up, but it feels great as long as you're pushing each movement. Big calf stretch, big high knee, big hip flexor stretch of the back leg. That leg bent still on the ground. And into our regular hip circles, but we're going to go one way and then back around the other. I don't mind if you move around the lower back, as long as we're not moving too much side to side. And keeping our thoracic spine still. So from our belly button upwards, or our sternum upwards, keeping that still. Again, making sure we're pushing this movement. A small hip circle is fine. We really want to try and get to the end ranges of the movement. Push that hip. Moving into a hamstring stretch. This is called a half pancake. as we're getting that arm up and over the head. Make sure you're turning sideways as much as you can, shoulder over shoulder, ear over ear. We're stretching our lats, our lower back, and our hamstring. We can also place that hand on our lower back and then pulling the shoulder back even more to make sure that our ear is over ear, shoulder over shoulder, really getting into that lower back. We'll finish off by holding our ankle and stretching just that hamstring. Breathe and relax. Head lower and lower with every exhale. You can pull your head towards your leg by pulling on your knee or thigh and swapping legs. Arm up and over. Same on the other side, shoulder over shoulder, ear over ear. Gazing up at the sky or the roof. Still stretching that hamstring of the straight leg. But focus on that lower back and the lats as well. Stretching from our pinky down the tricep, the lats, the lower back, into the hips, the hamstring, the calf. Hand behind the back. Intensifying that stretch to the lower back, twisting the spine, looking up at the sky. Chin down, chin to chest, trying to get your forehead to your knee. Pull as far as you can. Slow, deep breaths, matching that pace that we set in the beginning of the session. Head to knee, chest to knee. Pull your body forward. Changing into our glute stretch. It helps to swing that leg backwards and then swing it forward. Make sure we get the knee to the same side wrist and the foot to the opposite wrist. Keeping our hips high just to get that perfect glute stretch. And we have the option here to grab the foot, and this will help stretch the back leg hip flexor. If you can't do this, you can drop down onto your elbows. Dropping down onto the elbows, getting a deeper stretch in that glute. We can also relax the rest of the body. Try to stretch that back leg hip flexor. Multitasking. Deep breaths. And swapping legs. Feel free to swing that leg back behind you. Knee to wrist. Foot to opposite wrist. Stay high in the hips, stretch the glutes. Tall spine. And grabbing that back foot, pulling it up towards you to stretch that back leg hip flexor. You may need to readjust depending on how tight this side is. Remember, it gets easier with every exhale as long as you are focusing on the breath and focusing on the exhale. Dropping down onto your elbows, breathe, relax. Stretch that back leg hip flexor as well. Changing positions now onto all fours, stretching the groin. That foot is directly beside the knee, foot parallel, facing forward. Rocking backwards and forwards, we're changing where we're stretching on the groin, front to back, on and off. Now putting the foot forward about a foot, and now as you rock back, you're going to lift the toe up to the heel to get a little bit more of the hamstring and groin stretch. Rock forward groin, rock back hamstring and groin. Rock forward groin. Now that foot is in line with our hands. Stepping it back, fully collapsing into a child's pose. This is our child's pose glute stretch, and we're simply rotating the foot to the toes up to the sky. We're just pivoting that femur inside the hip joint. Everything else stays still, and swapping sides. Foot directly beside the knee, rocking backwards, rocking forwards. changing the location and the tension of that stretch. We can place our hand back beside the knee for a little bit more support. And foot up in line with your hands, lifting toes up to the sky as we rock back to our heel, forwards and backwards, hamstring and glutes, hamstring and groin. Foot back in line with the knee, down in child's pose, and pivoting the foot up to the sky, twisting that entire leg inside the hip joint. This is a new exercise for most of you. Go easy. Our classic shoulder stretch, hands back behind you, perfect stretch for biceps, pec, shoulder. Breathe and relax in this position, legs out straight, reach them as far forward as possible, and over time creep those hands back behind you. The goal is to be shoulder width with the hands and then as far back behind you, but a happy medium is fine. Breathe and reach back. Alternating leg lifts just to get those feet forward even more. Making your way to a wall, make sure your foot, the forward foot, is up against the wall, so is the knee and the hip. Knee, foot and hip connected to the wall and the side of your ribs, reaching the hand back to 45 degrees. This is our chest stretch. Our hip against the wall keeps the lower body still. We get a really good stretch to the torso. Bring the hand now down in line with the shoulder. Stretching a different part of the pec. We can multitask and stretch that back leg hip flexor. Just remember to tuck the pelvis, squeeze the glutes. We do our one arm wall slide here as well. Just go easy on the shoulder if you haven't done this one before. You can reduce the tension by leaning towards the wall. Swapping legs, foot against the wall, knee against the wall, hip against the wall, a little bit of the ribs against the wall, and arm back to 45 degrees. Tuck the pelvis, push the hips forward for a hip flexor stretch as well. The main focus of this one is though the chest. Moving the hand now down to our shoulder. Breathe and relax. And wall slides. Reaching the hand all the way up to the sky. Again, go easy on this one. And onto our knees in child's pose. Sitting up tall, stretching our triceps and lats. Make sure we're leaning away from the arm that we're pulling and stretching. Stretching our triceps and our lats, all the way down into the lower back as well. All the fascia along our ribs. Swapping sides. Concentrate on the breath, breathe in, breathe out. Deep and slow. Coming to the end of our stretch. And ear to shoulder, ear to shoulder. Stretching our neck, chin to chest, look to the sky, chin to chest, look to the sky. And we're done.